Good day! I'm Mary Grace Galanida from BSHM3A, and today I am going to tackle the Chapter 5 of the legal aspects in the tourism and hospitality industry, the law on sales, agency, and credit transactions. So here are our learning objectives. First, describe and explain the nature of sales transactions. Second, identify the functions and operation of agencies in the industry. And third, identify ways of handling credit transactions. The law on sales. In the tourism, travel, and hospitality industry, agreements arising from contracts will have to be made, and potential breach from these agreements will be encountered. A contract of sales is one of the usual contracts being encountered by the industry concerned. This will give you an overview of the different sales transactions which may be encountered, including the remedies of the parties concerned. So in Article 1458, it stated that by the contract of sale, one of the contracting parties obligates himself to transfer ownership of and to deliver a determinate thing, and other to pay therefore a price certain in money or its equivalent. So a contract of sale may be absolute or conditional. So for example, when you buy a book from a bookstore, you're entering into a contract of sale. So you agree to give the bookstore a money and they agree to give you the book. So this contract can be absolute, like you pay and get the book immediately, or conditional, that you pay now and get the book when it's back in store. So now let's jump to the characteristics of a contract of sale. First is the consensual. A contract of sale is perfected by mere consent. No form is prescribed for the perfection in a contract of sale except in the following. A. Those covered into the statute of frauds, which must appear in writing, otherwise the sale is considered unenforceable. B. Sale of real property made through an agent, in which case the agent's authority must be in writing, otherwise the agency and the sale made through an agent is void. Number 2, bilateral, because it gives rise to reciprocal obligations. Third, principal, because it can stand by itself without need of another contract. Fourth, onerous, because the consideration for each party is delivery of the thing or the payment of the price. Fifth, commutative, because what the vendor delivers is considered equivalent of the price paid by the vendee. Sixth, nominate, because it has a designated name under the Civil Code of the Philippines, which is sale. And lastly, transmissive of ownership, because the vendor transfers ownership of the subject matter to the vendee. So now let's proceed to the effect of loss of the object in a contract of sale. So in Article 1480, any injury to or benefit from the thing sold after the contract has been perfected, from the moment of the perfection of the contract to the time of delivery, shall be governed by the Article 1262. So, in other words, Article 1480 states that any damage or benefit to the item sold from the time the contract is agreed upon until delivery is governed by the other articles. So, for example, if you sell a car to someone and they decide to upgrade the stereo system before you deliver it, they are responsible for any changes or improvements made to the car during that time. So next, in Article 1262, an obligation which consists in the delivery of a determinate thing shall be extinguished if it should be lost or destroyed without the fault of the debtor, and before he has incurred in delay. So, in other words, Article 1262 states that if a specific item to be delivered is lost or destroyed without the fault of the seller, the obligation to deliver it is cancelled. So for example, if you sell a rare collectible to someone, but it gets stolen before you can deliver it, you are no longer obligated to provide the item to the buyer. So in Article 1496, the ownership of the thing sold is acquired by the vendee from the moment it is delivered to him in any manner of the ways specified in Articles 1497 to 1501, or any other manner signifying an agreement that the possession is transferred from the vendor to the vendee. So for example, if you sell a laptop to someone and you physically hand it over to them, ownership of the laptop is transferred to the buyer at that moment. So now let's jump to the sale of personal property payable in installments. So it is possible that in buying personal properties used for public transportation or delivery of goods, for example buses, cruise ships, or delivery trucks, this provision will be useful for the contracting parties in case of sale of personal properties payable in installments. So in Article 1484, in a contract of sale of personal property, the price of which is payable in installments, the vendor may exercise any of the following remedies. So first is the exact fulfillment of the obligation should the vendee fail to pay. So for example, if you sell a car to someone with monthly installments and they miss a payment, you can demand that they pay the full remaining balance. Second is cancel the sale should the vendee's failure to pay cover two or more installments. So for example, if you sell a TV to someone with monthly installments and they miss two or more payments, you can cancel the sale and take back the TV. So third is to foreclose the chattel mortgage on the thing sold. If one has been constituted, should the vendee's failure to pay cover two or more installments. So in this case, he shall have no further action against the purchaser to recover any unpaid balance of the price. Any agreement to the contrary shall be void. So for example, if you sell a motorcycle to someone with a chattel mortgage and they miss two or more payments, you can foreclose on the motorcycle and take possession of it, but you cannot seek payment for the remaining balance from the buyer. So now let's proceed to the double sale. So caution should be practiced by real estate developers engaging in the hotel industry, especially on real property located in potential yet unexplored provinces. So the principles on double sale will be useful in case an issue on the sale of a real property to different vendees shall be brought before the courts of law. So in Article 1544, if the same thing should have been sold to different vendees, the ownership shall be transferred to the person who may have first taken possession in good faith, if it should be movable property. Should it be immovable property, the ownership shall belong to the person acquiring it who in good faith first recorded in it the registry of property. Should there be no inscription, the ownership shall pertain to the person who in good faith was first in possession, and in the absence thereof, to the person who presents in the oldest title, provided there is good faith. So the provision pertains to the same property which has been sold to different buyers or vendees. So for example, if someone sells a rare painting to two different buyers, the first buyer takes possession of the painting in good faith. They will be the rightful owner. However, if the painting is a piece of land and the second buyer registers it in the registry of property in good faith before the first buyer, then the second buyer will become the rightful owner. Now let's move to the Pacto de Retrosale or conventional redemption. So in Article 1601, conventional redemption shall take place when the vendor reserves the right to repurchase the thing sold, with the obligation to comply with the provisions of Article 1616 and other stipulations which may have been agreed upon. So for example, if you sell your car to a friend with a pacto de recto agreement, you retain the right to repurchase the car within a specified period, usually at the predetermined price. This allows you to regain ownership of the car if you fulfill the conditions agreed upon in the contract. Now let's proceed to the obligations of the vendor. So in Article 1495, the vendor is bound to transfer the ownership of and deliver as well as warrant the thing which is object of the sale. So for example, if you sell a laptop to someone, you are obligated to transfer ownership of the laptop to them, physically deliver the laptop to their possession, and provide a warranty for the laptop's condition. And in Article 1496, the ownership of the thing sold is acquired by the vendee from the moment it is delivered to him. So for example, if you buy a book from a bookstore, you become the owner of the book as soon as the bookstore hands it over you. And in Article 1497, the thing sold shall be understood as delivered when it is placed in the control and possession of the vendee. So for example, if you purchase a new smartphone online, the item is considered delivered when it arrives at your doorstep and is in your possession. So let's move to the obligations of the vendee. So in Article 1582, the vendee is bound to accept delivery and pay the price of the thing sold at the time and place stipulated in the contract. So if you agree to buy a new smartphone from a seller, you are obligated to accept the delivery of the smartphone when it is provided to you. And additionally, you are responsible for paying the price of the smartphone as per the terms and conditions outlined in the contract and at the designated time and place agreed upon. So now let's proceed to the law on agency. The hotel, tourism, and hospitality industry cannot do away with agencies which will facilitate various transactions in dealing with third persons. Hence, there is a need to understand the operation of agencies working on behalf of principal belonging the hotel, tourism, and hospitality industry. So in Article 1868, by the contract of agency, a person binds himself to render some service or to do something in representation or on behalf of another, with the consent or authority of the latter. So for example, if you hire a real estate agent to sell your property, you enter into a contract of agency. The real estate agent is obligated to represent you and act on your own behalf the process of selling in the property. They have the authority to negotiate with the potential buyers, handle paperwork, and facilitate the sale, all with your consent authorization as the property owner. Let's move to the liability of the principals and the agent. So in Article 1883, if an agent acts in his own name, the principal has no right of action against the persons with whom the agent has contracted, neither have such persons against the principal. In such case, the agent is the one directly bound in favor of the person with whom he has contracted, as if the transaction were his own, except when the contract involved things belonging to the principal. For example, if a real estate agent enters into a contract to sell a property in their own name, the property owner cannot sue the buyer or any other party involved in the transaction. Similarly, the buyer or other parties cannot take legal actions against the property owner. The agent in this case is solely responsible for fulfilling the terms of the contract and is liable to the buyer as if they were the owner of the property, unless the contract specifically involves the property owner's belongings. Now let's move to the law on credit transactions. So in Article 1933, by a contract of loan, one of the parties delivers to another either something not consumable so that the latter may use the same for a certain time and return it, in which case the contract is called a commoditum, or money or other consumable thing, upon the condition that the same amount of the same kind and quality shall be paid, in which case the contract is simply called loan or mutuum. So, commodatum is essentially gratuitous. Simple loan may be gratuitous or with a stipulation to pay interest. So, for example, if you lend your friend a book from your personal library for a week, that would be a commodatum loan. Your friend is expected to return the book to you after the agreed upon time, and there is no expectation of repayment or interest. On the other hand, if you lend your friend $100 with the agreement that they will repay you the same amount within a month, that would be a simple loan or mutum. In this case, there is an expectation of repayment of the same amount borrowed, and it may include an additional interest payment if agreed upon. So that's all with my discussion. Thank you and have a good day.